Everyone's doing well. Thanks for tuning into this, whether you catch me live or you watch me later. So in this one, I want to give a shout out to one of my viewers. His name is Krasimir Pavlovich. I hope I haven't destroyed your name too much. Um, I don't speak any Eastern European languages, so that's my best approximation. Um, and that his name brings up an excellent point. So you see the title of this video, Beware New Deals. Listen to Eastern Europeans. I've been telling people for years, definitely since 2020, since the whole Wuhan cooties panic, scamdemic started and the needlecraft, was getting rolled out in the lockdowns. I told people, listen to Eastern Europeans about this because they have firsthand experience with this. And even before that, as we've had this corporate communist, gradual tiptoe, um, I've been telling people, listen to Eastern Europeans because they have valuable insights. They can tell you what's going on. So, Krasimir, I'm not sure, where you're from or where you live. If you still live in Eastern Europe, your name looks, maybe Croatian, Serbian, maybe Slovenian, but that's all former Yugoslavia. So, you were probably born there, or maybe you still live there. So, somebody from former Yugoslavia, from Soviet Union, from the Warsaw Pact countries, they actually lived under communism. So there's this expression in English: if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck. So when it comes to communism, socialism, all these collectivist systems that are actually sponsored by banks, they're not there to save you from the evil billionaires like the Koch brothers or whoever the fuck. They're not there to save you from the evil capitalists. They're getting sponsored by the capitalists to play upon your victim mentalities. And the thing you can look up who the biggest lobbyist is for food stamps in America, which are now called EBT. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad program. Sometimes people need help. Sometimes catastrophic things happen to people. But if you look this up, the biggest lobbyist for this program is actually JP Morgan, because every EBT account, every food stamp account, which is now a debit card, they're all JP Morgan accounts. They're not Treasury accounts. They're not Department of Health and Human Services or whatever the fuck. They're JP Morgan bank accounts that get renamed, EBT account. So it's very stealthy. It's very intelligent how they play these games. So most people think that Wall Street, hates social welfare programs. No, they're the biggest lobbyists. They support it the most because they lend the money to the government, and then to cover the debt, the government has to raise taxes and they have to go to war. So it's all very simple, but we get manipulated. Our victim mentalities, which religion have played a large part in teaching us, have our victim mentalities get manipulated by the entertainment industrial complex, which is the news, Hollywood, movies, television, magazines, publishing. Most of it's propaganda, the vast majority. So back to my original point. Listen to people from Eastern Europe because they already know these things, and there's definitely a segment of the American population, the most vocal. They actually seem to be baby boomer men who vote Democrat. And if you mention the word communism, they'll basically start they'll start imitating this guy, General Ripper, from a movie called Dr. Strangelove from the 60s. And they make it like a big joke. Oh, there's no communism here. The Soviet Union fell. Well, Wall Street sponsored the Soviet Union, and Wall Street's still alive and well. So, yeah, actually, here in America, we have two communist parties, Democratic and Republican Party. They're both communism. The Democratic Party, it markets to people who have kind of a wimpier nature, who have, victim mentalities, and it glorifies victim mentalities, much like mainstream Christianity. And then the Republican Party, that basically caters to people who admire bullies more than they admire victims. But they switch roles, when you get, when Democrats get enough power and they can get away with it, they're bullies too. And Republicans, when they don't get what they want, they turn into wimpy victims. So they switch roles. But yeah, we have two communist parties anyway. Just read the 10 points, the 10 planks, the Communist Manifesto. It's all in there. Both parties embrace all 10 points. And it's like this. It's like this all over the Western world. A lot of communism flying around. So yeah, listen to people from Eastern Europe because they know this firsthand. I've never lived under it, but I've done a lot of reading, I've done a lot of research, and I grew up in a town with a lot of different European ethnic groups, a lot of people from Eastern Europe, a lot of Polish people, Greeks, Albanians, those are the predominant ones, Romanians from Eastern Europe. So I've met a lot of people who've had a lot of crazy experiences, especially during, World War II and the years after. So when their countries got taken over by communists. So listen to these people. If you have any doubts about what's going on in the world, and you start saying, am I going crazy? Am I just paranoid about communism? Go find an Eastern European in your environment. Somebody who immigrated here to the US or Canada or New Zealand or, France, Britain, wherever in the West you happen to live. Ask some Eastern Europeans what they think about what's going on. They'll tell you. It's very rare that they buy into this shit. When I was living up in Boston, I knew of just a handful of people from Eastern Europe who bought into the whole scamdemic, and I was shocked because people from Eastern Europe, they smell it first. They know how it works because they have firsthand experience. So yeah, I highly recommend this. I have a lot of admiration for just all of the whole Slavic nation and all of the, the countries that are part of that world. I love Slavic martial arts, like Sistema, Sambo. They're very good. They're very effective. And they understand in a good way how to be sneaky, how to do things without people knowing what you're going to do. They're brilliant. They're great martial arts. I'd say my favorite, really. So yeah, and I have a lot of admiration for those people, And a thing that I really can't stand, as an American, especially, the older generation, like the baby boom, and even some Gen Xers, and then the generation older than the baby boom that was like too young to, be in the military during World War II. They think that like America won World War II. It was actually the Soviet Union and the Chinese that did 95% of the work during World War II. So yeah, I have a lot of admiration for Eastern Europe. So yeah, I wanted to give a shout out again to Kresimir because he gave me the idea for this video, and it's kind of an add-on to the last one I did. And so, what he asked me, you can see it in the comments of the last video, my last live. He was asking, so is it reasonable to expect that we're going to be offered some kind of new deal because people are starting to rise up and not, believe the narrative? and the institutions who have a monopoly on the narrative. I think he's right on the money with this insight. He took the ideas I was talking about yesterday, a step further. So I think he's out. So Kresimir, you're absolutely right. Um, yeah, they're going to offer us new deals, and it's on the thumbnail for this video. I put AOC, and she's looking through the door like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. She's one of the point people. She's one of the point men, for this. She is not to, disparage her background, but she's an easy person to manipulate. She was a bartender who won a seat in Congress. She's a perfect demagogue for very ultra left-wing millennials, because she was working her ass off in a bar in New York City. She was probably making good money, but that money doesn't go far in New York City. So she was definitely, she understands that money doesn't grow on trees, and it's kind of, and the value of money is less than it used to be. It doesn't go as far as it used to. Price of everything is going up, especially in a place like New York City. So, she gets that the struggle is real, to make a living for yourself. But she's an easy person to manipulate. You put someone who's 27 in Congress, who has never dealt with just that upper class who controls all the political parties. The upper class, every political party is controlled by aristocrats, whether it's right wing, left wing, it's all the same shit. And the upper class actually invests in both because it keeps the people busy. It's a giant burlesque show that gets people sexually excited, and it gets people thinking that they're intelligent just because they can turn on a television. And that's a big thing here in America, especially the baby boomer males. They think they're heroic because they like to watch World War II and Vietnam movies and documentaries and watch the news. They think that's like the standard of heroism. It drives me fucking crazy. So yeah, politics is a giant burlesque show. So yeah, as the economy gets worse, as countries start to break up, and people, part of the world starts going back to freedom, and part of the world just doubles down on corporate communism and collectivism, then these governments are going to try to bribe us. They're going to try to give us new deals. They're going to offer us free shit that's not free. This is the thing. Government learned everything that it knows from the mafia and from the churches, who are also mafias, who actually control the mafias. The leadership of organized crime always goes back to the religion that the members are part of. So the government learned everything it knows from gangsters. And gangsters don't give you anything for free. That's totally delusional. They absolutely do not. It's even like the needlecraft and all of the follow-up needlecrafts. The roosters, right? They're like, go get your needlecraft, go get your injection. It's free. No, it's not free. It was sold to the government at an inflated price, and we're expected as taxpayers to pay for it later. So that's total fucking nonsense. So gangsters don't give you anything for free, but they're gonna make it look that way. They're gonna try to offer some kind of new deal. And here's the thing too. Ever since the baby boom stepped into the shoes of the people we call the global elite and the powers that be, whether you're talking about the political class or the NGOs above them or the financiers above them, and then whoever the fuck is above them. Since the baby boom stepped in, they've been it's interesting. They've been their addictive personalities and their need for instant gratification, which mass media has really conditioned us all to have. Since they've stepped in, they've been going much too quickly. They've abandoned the approach of gradualism that the old people, running the world used to use. So they overplay their hands and they're far too obvious. They're not very sneaky because they just want what they want right away. So it's interesting. We're actually getting saved by their impulsiveness and their addictiveness and their need for instant gratification. But this is coming. And when the economy starts to fail more, when institutions start to collapse, by 2027, there's going to be a big institutional collapse. Corporations, banks, government, NGOs, all that stuff. So as the stuff starts collapsing, they're going to make it look like they're giving us something for free out of the kindness of their hearts, but they're not. In exchange, they'll probably try to play the scamdemic card again, and they'll try to play the war card. So that's what you're going to owe them if you take this new deal. Oh, here's my point about the addictiveness and the impulsiveness of the baby boom being the global elites now and the powers that be. They are very addicted to and hung up on worshiping their parents and their parents' generation and the whole Great Depression and World War II phenomenon. So they don't really have a lot of imagination. They don't really have a will or an identity of their own for the most part. This is not everybody, but for the most part. So whenever they're up against some sort of a challenge, they want to just imitate World War II and the Great Depression. So this is why, you've got these people, you've got these demagogues like AOC talking about Green New Deals. And it's like, well, it's green, it's environmental, but then it's not her idea. It's the idea of the puppet masters who probably have arranged every election to keep her in Congress and who are funding her campaigns. They have given her this idea of a New Deal. So, and there are all of these unsuspecting, young people and even older people that just take her at face value. So yeah, it's interesting. It's like these so-called elites, they're just, and this is true of much of the baby boom generation. They think they're heroes because their parents were supposedly World War II heroes. And, here in America, we call the World War II generation, well, in mass media, they're called the greatest generation. I call the baby boom, their children, the most important generation because that is often their mentality. And television has taught them that. And so many of them don't think that television ever lies. So, yeah, if these new deals get rolled out, you're definitely being lied to and manipulated. And you're not going to get something for free and out of the kindness of anyone's heart. You're getting manipulated. And that's a very important thing with politics and all political parties and politicians. They hate your guts. So, when I was growing up, there was an expression, nobody likes an ass kiss. Well, some people do like ass kisses. Narcissists they like ass kisses insofar that they find them to be handy and they find them to be useful. And, some narcissists are psychopaths. So some psychopaths find ass kisses very useful. But nobody respects an ass kiss because nobody respects somebody who is just servile and like totally selfless. And selflessness is a very dangerous thing. If you don't have your own identity, and you don't want anything, you don't have your own willpower, you're a very dangerous person because you can be made to do everything. I think so many people here in America, especially retirees in the baby boom, would have helped put, Trump supporters or people who refuse to get the needle craft onto trains to go to camps if their leaders said, we just need to do this to save everybody, from the Kung flu and fix the country. I think they would. So many of them would have done it. So selflessness is a very dangerous thing. So anyway, nobody respects an ass kiss because nobody respects somebody who's, servile and is just basically like an empty shell. People may find them useful for getting what they want, but they don't respect them. So yeah, your politicians, your political parties, I don't think many people on here still believe in that stuff, but if you're listening to this, they hate your guts. So remember that. And so on that note, I'm going to sign off and I'll talk to you later. Have a nice one.